Yes guys, just a quick one on the shading on this face. So I've built out most of the shapes now. All these shapes on this dragon are built out with a 7 curved mag, so I could get different thicknesses in all the shapes rather than lining it and then shading it afterwards. So I've created all these shapes of detail. I've used a small mag to do that. Then I've built up the shading in layers, so I'm really starting to blend things off now and smooth things out, but you can see everything in place. So I'm stretching down here so you can see what's going on a bit more, but whenever I'm stretching normally, I'll keep my hand like this quite close to what I'm doing so I can manipulate the skin as I go. So at this stage when everything's kind of in place, just using lighter washes, so I'm in like a 25% saturated ink now, and I'll be bouncing between that pot and my lightest wash, which is literally just a few drops. Is it in the screen okay, I have, yeah. So when I've been shading out this dragon's face, I've kept, or should I say I've made good use of lots of the skin to keep those light sections on show, and then I can add a bit of depth to the face by darkening some of these other sections. So I always say I keep my cleaning to a minimum when I'm starting to build out the shapes of the tattoo. When I get down to this sort of stage where everything's layered and in place and I'm finalising all the shading, that's where I'll clean it a little bit more often so I can see what I'm doing. I can proper study the piece and just make sure if there's any sections that might need revisiting or might need adding a bit more shading to it. So this section round here at the top of the eyebrow, rather than like shading down like that, from this darker section I'm using forward strokes to build that out, and you can see as it develops here it's just blending seamlessly off. Same as I'm coming back round here, I'm sort of using a forward stroke, but I'm curling round there just to tuck that in, tight into the corner. What I am doing as well, which I talk about a lot, is I'm using my mag at different angles. So I'm offsetting my angle to the right here so that the needles on this edge can tuck right into that corner. When you develop control of this, it stops your shading having inconsistencies in it, because you're able to get in those spaces where you can build your solids and then blend them off. One thing I've kept in a lot of this face, I've kept the shading quite light as well. There's lots of areas of this whole leg tattoo where there's really dark sections. So I've kept bits of it that are much lighter and looks like they're popping out a bit more. Same with this bit here then, so them forward strokes nice and gentle, just to build on that shading bit there. Whenever I'm on my training courses and I've got the demonstrations going on, when my trainees sit and watch me and they're watching me build up a piece, quite often they'll say, I wouldn't know where to start with that and stuff like that, but you're always going to take on pieces that are relative to your skill level, so you're going to take on pieces you're happy to do. So a design like this would have fried my head when I first started, so I get it when people are watching, if there's bits going on that they don't fully understand. Whenever I'm doing these training videos, the tips that I'm giving, it's because it's things that I feel that will help you develop your skill set. So when I'm shading off an edge like this, what I'll do is I'll return every time back to that starting point, and I'm gliding forward and away, but I'm lightening my pressure as I go. So where I start off and it enters the skin, it's almost like the needles are pressing a little bit harsher, and then they glide away naturally and lift off the skin with the angle that I've got my machine at. So the fact that it's blending out is to do with like the pressure and stuff. And then obviously I'll come down my washes as well. You okay, brother? That hat's been your best mate on these last few days. My customer's been cuddling his cap for 4 days straight, hasn't he, bro? Yeah, so when you're building out a piece, you've got to be mindful of the areas that you do want the skin to be showing through. So if you just smash the same shading everywhere, what you're going to find is the piece will be in place, but it'll look quite flat. In order to give it depth, you need to be getting the darker sections to pop out, and then the lighter tones almost want to be built up of soft shading and completely non-shaded sections where the skin's showing completely through. So generally with my shading, when I'm blending, I'm using forward strokes on and off the skin, and I am curving with the shapes that I'm working with. And then if I'm tight in corners, I might be using small concentrated circles that start out like this and then they're building out into those forward strokes. So it's like a combination of those different methods. So down into my lightest wash now. I'm going to keep these videos coming for you guys every day though. Whatever piece I'm on, I'll film at a different section so you can see me doing different things. Whatever it is I'm doing, I'll talk a little bit about what's going on, what needles I'm using. So at the moment I've got a 21 curved mag. I've got my needle depth quite shallow, so I'm only showing around 1.5 mil out the end of the machine because I've shortened the needle depth so I can glide the softer shading in. When I'm impacting the harsher shading and the darker tones, I'll show more on my needle, and that's where I'm able to manipulate my pressures a little bit more. give it another clean so you can see, guys. Has it been like that the whole time?
Not the whole time.
Okay. Give it a go, guys. Do you want to, can stop now.